These are two similar looking Jordan 4 models made by Nike and Air Jordan. The one on the left is called the Oreo Jordan 4. It was released in 2015. You can see it's made from premium leather. The one on the right is a collaboration with Carhartt, made from workwear. But what's really interesting about these two shoes is what their current market value is. The shoe on the left resells for about 204 euros, while the shoe on the right resells for about an average of 20,000 euros. And that might be kind of astonishing for people that aren't familiar with the sneaker resale realm. But really what this comes down to is supply and demand. The shoe on the left, Nike doesn't release the kind of official figures, but it's probably around a couple 100,000 pairs. Whereas the shoe on the right, there was only 10 pairs released by M&M through eBay for a fundraiser for charity. So it's incredibly rare. And if you're not inside M&M's very immediate circle of friends, you probably didn't get hands on any, but they're incredibly coveted by collectors. Now, the retail price for the shoe on the left would have been around 150 euro. So even at that price, there's already some profits to be made by the 204 euros. And there's thousands and thousands of pairs of Jordans that are going for between 200 and 2,000, and there's dozens of pairs that are going for more than 10,000 euros per pair. And every Saturday, there's a new shoe coming out onto the market. Every week, there's a different item that's probably being released at about 25 to 50%, or even 500% under the market value. In 2018, in the US alone, there were 14 million pairs of trainers resold for 1.7 billion euros. And that's just in America alone. We estimate the resale market for sneakers in Europe to be about 1 billion euros just in Europe. Now, when you look at the global resale market, we're probably between 6 and 8 billion. And that's just for sneakers. And so that's kind of where to start with the stock market of things. And so if the resale market is that valuable, and the retail price is already that valuable, we're looking at in America 60 billion euros a year for the retail, the primary market for sneakers. That provoked the idea for the stock market of things. And Dan Gilbert, one of our co-founders, along with Josh Luber, who has many companies, he's based in Detroit, he owns the Cleveland Cavaliers. He'd seen his son buying sneakers on eBay, and he realized that it was incredibly opaque. There were so many information imbalances, and that he thought that was a really poor market leader for this economy. So he teamed up with Josh Luber, who had previously founded Capless, a data company that was essentially the price guide for sneakers. They were scraping data from across the internet, from places like eBay and other sources they could get their information from, to try to figure out what is the actual right price for these products. And as they started to flesh this out, they started to get involved with a lot of other people in their network that kind of got inspired by this idea of the stock market of things and provoked by the sneaker resale economy. And it brought in people from sport, from music, from film, and from a lot of kind of prominent business people and business ventures. And it's not just about the sneaker market that was so interesting, but it's this bigger idea of the stock market of things, which I'll talk a bit about. So what is the stock market of things? Well, it's a live bid-ask marketplace. When I said about eBay, if you want to go and find that Oreo, that first Jordan that was on the first page, you'll go through and you'll look through thousands and thousands of listings of different shoes, and people will have pictures of their, different photos that they have to upload. They'll have different prices set. You have to look at the seller rating and all these different things based on who's selling it. Do I trust this person? And that doesn't really matter. What really matters is, are you getting the thing that you want? Are you getting that shoe? And so we feel that a stock market model, a stock market exchange, is actually a more efficient way to help people engage in those trades. And there's 3 tenets to this. Anonymity. You don't care who's selling you that shoe. All you care is that you get that shoe. And you don't care who's buying that shoe. You just care that you're getting the price that you're willing to sell it for. And to help that, we need transparency in pricing. So if you don't know who's selling it, you need to know something. So on our platform, every historical trade for that product is shown the sale price. So you see exactly what was sold for before, what exactly people are paying for, and that should inform what you're trying to buy. And to make this all work with authenticity. So whereas with eBay or other marketplaces, the seller will ship directly to the buyer, we sit in the middle of all those transactions. So when a seller sells something, they ship it to us. And then we inspect and verify the condition, verify the sizing, verify the authenticity. The counterfeit economy in sneakers is incredible. And just based on those first two shoes alone, you can imagine that in a limited supply realm, that the opportunity to forge those products and resell at a profit is incredibly opportunistic. And so some people have estimated the resale economy and the counterfeit economy to be more than $1 trillion annually across fashion alone. Now, when we look at the sneakers, we know that in order to preserve that anonymous marketplace, in order to preserve the integrity of the pricing that's being happened, we need to guarantee that everything that people are getting is going to be optimal. And so that's what allows us all to kind of function. And so this is what a product page looks like on a StockX. We don't have thousands of listings. Everything happens on this one exchange. People bid how much they're willing to spend to buy the item, and people who have the item to sell are able to list it for how much they're willing to sell it for. And what's really exciting is that as a seller, those bids are tied to people's credit cards. They're tied to their bank accounts. So you can go onto that product page at any time as a seller if you have this shoe, and you can click Sell Now. And that's really what started to revolutionize this platform. And so this is how we've kind of really transformed the resale economy by allowing this kind of liquidity of trade, by allowing people to sell instantly and not have to worry about anything else. You're just focused on what the product is, how much you're willing to spend on it. And so we started as a data company with Capless, the price guide for sneakers. We've kind of grown into this big resale economy, this resale marketplace for sneakers. But then when we started to look at this, okay, if the retail price is so artificially low, and there's this immediate opportunity for this profit, then there must be something in the retail space that isn't working quite properly. Because that price should be an indicator of value, but because it's artificially stated and the demand far exceeds the supply, there's always an arbitrage for those highly sought after goods. And so we realized that there's potentially a better way to release product. And so we call it an initial product offering. So we did this for a couple of times, but most recently we did this with Ben Baller, who's a jeweler from California. He made these slides in a limited supply. As you can see, there's 800 pairs. And instead of setting a retail price, which would have typically been 62 euros, we released this through a true blind Dutch auction. So there were, say, 50 pairs in each size. And of those 50 pairs, we allowed people to bid for 72 hours how much they were willing to spend, and completely blind. And after the bidding window closed, the top 50 bids ended up setting the clearing price. So the lowest of those 50 ended up being the price that everyone above it bought it for. So you can see what the clearing price was. So it was much higher than the retail price, but because it was the lowest of those 50 bids, everyone else of those 50 people, 49 of those people got the pair for cheaper than they were willing to spend. So the actual market value of that after the clearing price ended up being much higher. So now they currently trade for around 300 euros. So this is a really interesting opportunity because what we're able to do through this was get a higher price for the supplier. Everybody who bought it got it for lower than they were willing to spend on it. And since there's now people that are spending even almost double that to get their hands on the pair. And this is just for a very simple pair of slides. So if we started to do this with other products and look at the opportunity for different things that have a much broader market, we realize that there's a great way to let the market dictate what the price should be of things that they're released. And so when we start to look at that opportunity from the clearing price and then the immediate resale price, we realize that there's now kind of true day trading opportunity here within these consumer goods. And we see the future of it kind of like this. And this is why there's so many different people involved with the investment of this company and the scale of what we're trying to do. It's not just about sneakers. Sneakers have been a great way to highlight the opportunity of this model. And we see the future of e-commerce as this axis. eBay will always be, or a marketplace such as it, will always be the best place for a true one-of-one, a true unique item where there's no real supply. An antique that's has some sentimental value from a family, certain autographed goods, a unique piece of art perhaps. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Amazon, which is a great business that's obviously optimized how to sell commodities or commoditized consumer goods, things that there's no real limit to supply. Staplers, paper clips, anything like that, office paper, things that maybe it doesn't really matter what the supply is. But in the middle of this axis, we see opportunity for the StockX model to really be a much more efficient way for things to be traded. anywhere where there's a finite supply of goods, we think that the stock market model is better. Let the market dictate what the pricing of that good should be, both on the release and then in the secondary market functions. And so we were founded 3 years ago, and currently we're trading about 2.6 million in sales from GMV per day. We've grown from 4 people to 750 people in less than 3 years. And we've got 15 million, that's actually quite a bit lower than what it is currently, monthly active users. So we're just getting started, and we see that the size of that axis, and we look at the middle, and we realize we're doing over $1 billion in GMV a year just off of primarily sneakers and handbags and watches and streetwear. So when we look at the opportunity of this whole axis, we think that there's an incredible amount of potential for what this business can do. Currently, this is where our global operation is, with authentication centers in Detroit, a few other in the United States, now in the UK. We're opening a new facility in the Netherlands, and we've got a small office in Japan. So we're still in its nascent state as a business, but the opportunity is great, and I hope that explains to you a little bit of the stock market of things. Thank you.